Now, some may say, if the papacy is truly the mechanism of unity, then why did schisms still happen? Why did the East and West split? Why are there internal divisions even in the West? Doesn't history itself falsify the claim that the papacy is necessary for unity? The answer is that this objection assumes a standard that no social or ecclesial authority structure is meant to meet. A final court of appeal does not make rebellion impossible, it makes unity actionable, and it makes disunity identifiable. The existence of a court does not guarantee nobody will commit crimes. The existence of a government does not guarantee nobody will revolt. The existence of parents does not guarantee children will always obey. These structures are not magic. They're mechanisms that make order, adjudication, and accountability possible when human will and human sin resist what is good. So when I say the papacy is necessary for unity, I do not mean a pope guarantees no one will ever break communion. What I mean is, if unity is a real visible obligation for a real visible church, then there must exist a real visible determinate authority that can render a binding judgment when disputes threaten communion. Otherwise, unity is merely an ideal that survives only while people happen to disagree. In fact, the schism happened anyway objection backfires if applied consistently. Councils existed, and yet schisms still occurred. Bishops existed, and yet heresies still arose. Scripture itself records disputes among Christians even in the apostolic age. The presence of an authoritative mechanism never meant the automatic elimination of conflict. It meant that when conflict occurred, there was a normative standard and a visible court that could say, this is the church's binding judgment, and therefore also say, to reject this is to rupture communion. And that leads directly to the point. Without a final recognized authority, division becomes ambiguous and self-justifying. Each side simply declares itself the true continuation and the other side the schismatic, and there is no internal binding way to resolve the contradiction. Unity becomes a matter of perspective. With a final court, however, unity may still be resisted, but the church is not left without a final word when unity is threatened. There remains a clear place of appeal and a clear locus of accountability. In a system without a final court, a schism is just an endless argument where both sides claim the other is wrong. In the papal model, a schism is a visible departure from the determinate center of communion, making the boundaries of the church objective rather than subjective. So the existence of schism does not disprove the need for a unifying mechanism. It proves something simpler and more human, that even the best mechanisms can be rejected. The real question is not, can anyone ever rebel? The real question is, did Christ leave his church with a determinate way to decide and preserve communion when serious disputes arise? That is what the papacy claims to be. Not a guarantee that men will never rupture unity, but the church's built-in principle of finality, so that unity may be maintained when men are unwilling to obey Christ's design. The Catholic claim is that Peter and his successors are the mechanism Christ established and gave authority to govern the whole church in service to the unity Christ prayed for. Now, the Orthodox and most Anglo-Catholics would disagree, saying instead that the Bishop of Rome is the first among equals, but that doesn't equate to having some sort of supreme authority. But I would argue that, logically speaking, in order to maintain visible, doctrinal, sacramental, jurisdictional, and continual unity across the entire church through the ages until Christ's return, this aim of unity does not merely benefit from a papal office, but outright requires it.